In the quaint village of Willowbrook, nestled between the whispering woods and the serene river, lived old Mrs. Ellaway, a woman known for her boundless kindness and her daily morning prayers that seemed to bless the entire village with peace. Every morning, as the first rays of sunshine kissed the dew-laden grass, Mrs. Ellaway would be seen sitting by her open window, her eyes closed, hands clasped, whispering her prayers into the quiet air. One particular morning, as the crisp autumn air carried the aroma of pine and wet earth, Mrs. Ellaway began her prayer with the usual grace, but with a certain heaviness in her heart. "Dear Lord," she started, her voice a soft murmur, "bless this beautiful day you have made. Protect this village, and guide its people towards love and harmony. Today, I pray especially for young Thomas, who seems to have lost his way." Thomas, a young man of just 16, had recently been enveloped in grief after the loss of his father. The tragedy left him adrift, wandering through his days with a solemn face and a heart full of tangled emotions. He had ceased to smile, and his mother worried endlessly about the dark cloud that loomed over him. Mrs. Ellaway's prayers continued day after day, each word a petal falling into the winds of hope. She prayed not just for Thomas, but for all the villagers, for old man Henry's ailing wife, for little Sarah's lost cat, and for peace to blanket the restless hearts around. Her belief was a lighthouse, unwavering and bright, guiding the lost ships to shore. One day, as the leaves began to wear their golden hues of fall, Thomas walked past Mrs. Ellaway's window. He paused, drawn by the serene whisper floating through the air. Her words spoke of healing, of forgiveness, and of new beginnings. Something inside Thomas stirred, a warmth he hadn't felt since before his father's passing. Curious, he knocked gently on her door. Mrs. Ellaway, with a welcoming smile, invited him in. Over hot tea and freshly baked scones, they talked. Thomas poured out his heart, speaking of his father, his fears, and his loneliness. Mrs. Ellaway listened, her eyes filled with empathy and understanding, and when he was done, she took his hands in hers and prayed for him. "Lord, please wrap Thomas in your loving arms, heal his wounded heart, and renew his spirit. Show him that even in the darkest times your love is a constant source of light," she prayed. As days turned into weeks, a subtle change began to weave through Thomas's life. The prayers seemed to lift the shadows, allowing light to seep back into his heart. He started to help Mrs. Ellaway with her garden, learning about the flowers and the bees, and the beauty of nurturing life. With each seed planted, a piece of his sorrow was replaced with hope. The villagers noticed the change too. Where despair once loomed, there was now a budding joy. Thomas began to smile again, his laughter a melody in the wind that even old man Henry could hear as he sat by his ailing wife, whose health too was slowly improving. Seasons changed, and life continued in its mysterious, wondrous cycle. The prayers of Mrs. Ellaway whispered into each morning seemed to weave a tapestry of grace over Willowbrook. People came to her with their troubles, and she enveloped them in her prayers, each word a thread in the village's ever-growing quilt of healing. In time, Thomas realized the power of faith and hope, lessons he learned not through grand gestures, but through the gentle, steadfast whisper of prayers from an old woman who believed in the goodness of the world. And as he stood by the river one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky with colors of fire and gold, he whispered his own prayer of gratitude. "Thank you, Lord, for Mrs. Ellaway, for her faith, and for showing me the way back to life. Bless her as she has blessed so many," he prayed, his words mingling with the twilight air, carrying on the legacy of those morning whispers of grace.